All off season with the Dodgers, it was the rich get richer. So far this season, it's just the injured get injureder. And then the A's said, hey, as long as you're mangling metaphors, mind if we add some insult to that injury?
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and thanks to those of you who are with me live on this dreary Tuesday evening. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snider. My normal co-host is Vince Samperio, although it's just me again tonight. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like most of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Later on in this episode, we're going to talk about Pete Rose, who is reinstated by Commissioner Rob Manfred, just a few months after he died. We'll dig into that. It's not specifically Dodgers related, but Pete Rose was a Dodgers rival for most of his career, and so we're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about the return of the king, Clayton Kershaw, coming back this weekend. Michael Conforto continues to hit. We'll talk about those in the second segment. But in this first segment, we are going to dig into the latest Dodgers pitching injury, which is Roki Sasaki, who went on the injured list on Tuesday. We got word early Tuesday that JP Fireeisen was back with the team. Just like last week when Matt Sauer was back with the team, we knew the Fireeisen couldn't be recalled from the minors unless it was for an injury. And then not too long after, we found out that it was Roki Sasaki, that he had some soreness after his last start, and they were considering putting him on the IL. Seemed pretty obvious he was going on the IL since they had already brought Fireeisen up, and how conservative they've been with all their pitchers so far this year, or I guess if you want to go the other way, how aggressive they've been with putting people on the IL. And that's what they did. So Roki Sasaki goes to the IL. JP Fireeisen gets called up temporarily. Fireeisen will be back down as soon as there's somebody else to call up. He was not good, shockingly. He gave up 3 runs in his 2 innings of work. His ERA now stands at 11.25, which is better than the undefined ERA he had before, because he had given up a run without getting any outs, although it was an unearned run. So 0 divided by 0 is still undefined. Anyway, he's got an ERA now, and it's not a great one. Fireeisen doesn't appear to be the same pitcher. He probably is one of those guys on the chopping block when Clayton Kershaw does return this weekend. Like I'm going to talk about in the next segment, Fireeisen's probably gone. We'll see if he sticks around on the big league roster or if his time on the big league roster was one day this time again. But with Sasaki hurt, it kind of opens things up. Sasaki had been scheduled to pitch on Thursday in the series finale against the A's. Obviously, that won't happen now. It leaves things open. You could just bump Gonsolin and May both up and have them go on regular rest leading up to Clayton Kershaw's start on Saturday. But it seems like they're not inclined to do that, and this does give them a chance to give one of those guys even more extra rest, going, one of them holding off till Sunday. I think May is before Gonsolin in the rotation. All these games run together in my mind. It went Yamamoto. Yeah. No. Yes. Anyway, sounds like probably they're going to piece something together on Thursday where it would have been Roki Sasaki. Kasparis will be available he pitched a couple days ago, but he didn't throw a ton of pitches. Between Kasparis and Sauer and Dreyer, they can probably take down most of a game. The guy pitching for the A's in that game is not great. So it might be a slugfest. When I did my crossover with Booney from Locked On A's the other day, what he predicted was that the A's would win this game. The Dodgers would win game 2 of the series with Yamamoto going against Hoagland. And then he predicted that the A's would win a slugfest on Thursday. I still think the Dodgers win this series. They're the better team. You wouldn't have known that by tonight. It was ugly, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in the second segment because they're were some bright spots and some not. The one part that we will talk about right now is Landon Knack. He didn't look great. There were things that were promising, I guess. He got 14 swings and misses. He had 8 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings. Both of those are good. Problem is he also gave up 5 runs and 8 base runners in those 4 2/3 innings. That's not good. And the 2 2-run homers to Jacob Wilson were the big blows. The other run he allowed was after he was out of the game. But the 4 runs on Jacob Wilson home runs, not ideal. And sometimes it's easy. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know which I would prefer. A guy just getting knocked around or giving up a couple big home runs like that. Because the fact is, if you give up 4 runs on 2 homers, that means you were a couple good pitches away from allowing 0 runs, And so if wishes were fishes, we'd all have a fry, as my dad used to say. What happened. But maybe there's an alternate universe where he does make better pitches there. And, but also, like I said, 8 base runners and 4 2/3 innings. It's not like that was the only stuff he allowed. And that's why you want, even when Clayton Kershaw later in his career, when he wasn't the perennial Cy Young winner anymore, he was still a very good pitcher. And the one thing that changed was his home run rate went up, but he was very good at making those be solo homers. And that's what you want from your pitcher. Yeah, every pitcher's going to give up home runs once in a while. You want them to be solo homers. If Knack allows 2 solo homers to Wilson tonight, the Dodgers are still in that game. They go to different relievers probably. But the fact is they were down 4-1 with a runner on base by the time Knack was out of the game. And so it's like, well, we got to go to Luis Garcia. You can't use your high leverage guys in every game. And when you're down 4-1, that's when you go to the other guys. And so, and then from Luis Garcia, when he didn't do great, then it was Bonda, he did fine. And then it was Fireeisen. Like at that point, you're down 6-1 and JP Fireeisen is the right answer, unfortunately. If JP Fireeisen is the right answer, you don't want to know what the question is. And that's what this game was. It was very much a game of you don't want to know what the question is. Fact is, Landon Knack is probably sticking around in this rotation for a while, especially now with Sasaki out. Kershaw's coming back, but Knack is probably sticking around because there's not like there's anybody banging down the door in AAA who's a better option. And Knack, again, there were those signs of promise. The swing and miss looked decent. And I don't know. Obviously, it's a results-based game. The results matter a lot. But just like with Michael Conforto, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, we saw signs before we saw results. The last couple of weeks I've been saying, I think Michael Conforto has a breakout coming. Now we're starting to see that because the signs were there. Was tonight enough for Landon Knack to say the signs are there that he's going to get better? I don't know. I'm encouraged by the swing and miss. I'm encouraged by the strikeouts, but I'm going to need the pitches that aren't swings and misses to be a little bit better too. But the fact is he's probably going to get a few more chances at the big league level because that's where the Dodgers rotation is right now. And ultimately the Dodgers scored 1 run. They didn't get a single hit with runners in scoring positions tonight. And so even if he had given up 2 solo homers to Jacob Wilson and that was it, who knows what happens if the game's closer, obviously, but the Dodgers scored 1 run in this game. You're not going to win many games scoring 1 run, no matter how good your pitching is. So, but as I mentioned, Clayton Kershaw is coming back on Saturday. Michael Conforto had a good game on Tuesday. One of those things has me really, really excited. The other one has me at least relieved. We're going to talk Clayton Kershaw's return. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. I am back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You make that easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can also go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, have one-on-one conversations, and get access to our exclusive Discord server where you can talk Dodgers with other Dodger fans and Locked On Dodgers fans. And for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB, hosted by our buddy Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. This game, it was ugly. It was dumb. It's one game. Thankfully, losing 2-1 or 11-1 counts the same in the standings. Speaking of the standings, the Padres won, so the Dodgers are half a game up on the Padres. The Giants also won, so the Dodgers are, I think, 2.5 up on them. Things are tight. It's what we expect. And they'll get them tomorrow. That's the nice thing about baseball is you always get to play again the next day, almost always. And in a few days, Clayton Kershaw will be playing. Kershaw is returning. He's starting on Saturday, Dave Roberts announced, which means that while everybody was saying May 18th, I was saying my math says May 17th, and I was right. I don't know why people were saying May 18th because he went on the IL on March 18th, and 60 days after that is May 17th. But, whatever. He is pitching on Saturday, and it's one of those things where you got to temper your expectations, I guess. I don't expect Kershaw to be 2014 version of Clayton Kershaw. I think he's going to be solid. And the nice thing is, one of the things I'm excited about is that he was forced to rehab longer than he necessarily needed to because he was on the 60-day IL. So he wasn't eligible to come off. And so it's like, well, okay, I'll do another rehab start. So he is fully built up. And so one of the things the Dodgers need is innings, obviously quality innings. We don't want him to go 7 innings and allow 13 runs. But if he can go 6 or 7 innings and allow a couple of runs, that's great. And I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. Even if he gives up 4 runs in 6 innings, Dodgers offense most of the time will be in a position to win that game. One thing that's interesting, I listened to a little bit of the postcast with Pete after the game, which you can catch after most Dodger games here on our channel. And Pete and I see baseball a little bit differently sometimes. And maybe one of the things I heard him say in the little bit that I was catching while I was preparing to go live was saying that the Dodgers with runner scoring position is starting to become a concern. And if history started 24 hours ago, it's absolutely becoming a concern. The fact is, coming into this game, the Dodgers had the highest batting average in baseball with runners in scoring position. They've been good with runners in scoring position this year. They were bad tonight. They were 0 for 12, I think. 0 for 12 runners in scoring position, left 8 runners on base. They had runners in scoring position in a lot of different innings and couldn't get much across. But they were overall this season, they've been really good with runners in scoring position. And it's one of the reasons that I don't like runners in scoring position tells a story of what happened in a game. It has zero predictive value. It was, especially when like last year when people were like, well, the Dodgers have been terrible with runners in scoring position the last 2 postseasons. So, okay, we're talking about 7 games over 12 months. And now we're a year after that. It had no predictive value. And even like right now, Dodgers 0 for 12, 0 for their last 12 right now, the runners in scoring position means nothing for Wednesday's game. Zero predictive value. It's just they had a bad game with runners in scoring position. Maybe that's Jeffrey Springs making good pitches. Maybe that's, pitchers or batters taking bad at bats. Combination of those things. Maybe it's bad luck. Some of that. All these things add up. It means nothing for tomorrow. Tonight, it was frustrating. Yeah. It was no fun to watch your favorite team go 0 for 12 runners in scoring position. And it was, but it means nothing. And so most of the time, because the Dodgers, the reason that they are leading baseball in batting average with runners in scoring position is they have a very good team, a team full of good hitters. Not all of them are good hitters, but a lot of them are. And, and some of them are clutch guys or have been clutch, Teo and Will Smith and those guys, even Shohei Ohtani lately, Freddie Freeman, obviously. But a lot of that is they're just good hitters. And that's your best chance to get a hit with runners in scoring position is to have a good hitter up at the plate. Not a guy with good batting average with runners in scoring position, a good hitter. And Dodgers have a lot of those. And so that's why I say if Clayton Kershaw can come back and give us just decent quality-ish starts, not even the technical definition of a quality start, but quality-ish, Dodgers will be in good position to win a lot of those games. And one of those quality hitters is maybe apparently Michael Conforto, who I mentioned him a little bit in the last segment, talking about Landon Knack. And, when sometimes, like, I don't think of myself as a stat geek. I very much enjoy baseball stats. I enjoy learning about them. I enjoy some of the advanced stats. I recognize some flaws in a lot of them. And even no stat is perfect, but even the ones that are flawed, there's things I like about them. And I think I'm pretty good at using them in a smart way. And one of the stats that I'm really interested in is exit velocity and, by extension, expected batting average, stuff that is publicly available to everybody on Baseball Savant. For every at bat, every ball in play, you can see what was the launch angle, what was the exit velocity, what was the expected batting average. And I've talked about it a few times over the last few weeks because Michael Conforto's expected batting averages have been a lot better than his results in a lot of ways. And I've said, I feel like there's a breakout coming. And you wouldn't have known it just by looking at the box score. Another over. Oh, he got a hit. That's exciting, and then another over. But the quality of contact was getting better. And I've talked about how for him, I felt like it was a launch angle thing, that he was hitting too many hard ground balls. First, he was just not hitting the ball very well at all. And then it became hard ground balls. And now, okay, if we can turn some of those hard ground balls into hard line drives, then we're set. That's what we saw tonight from Michael Conforto. 3 doubles, all of them hit well, over 100 miles an hour. He has been hitting the ball really well for about a week and a half, 2 weeks now, even though the results are just now coming. And that's why I enjoy these stats, because there is some predictive value. I just talked about how batting average runners in scoring position has no predictive value. But how hard are you hitting the ball? That has predictive value. If you're consistently hitting the ball hard, even if the results aren't there, the results are going to come. And even if you have an expected batting average of 030 because you hit it hard, but right at the second baseman, okay, or hit it hard, but got under it a little bit, and so it was a fly out, okay, that still has predictive value, because in the history of baseball that they've been measuring exit velocities, which we're now, well over a decade into, there's a lot of data now that tells you the harder you hit the ball, better chance you have of getting a hit. And so that's what we saw with Michael Conforto, and we're starting to see the results now. It doesn't mean that he's going to get 3 hits in every game, that he's going to have offers. He's still going to hit into another double play at some point, and people are going to say, there it is, Michael Conforto hitting into a double play again. And yeah, it'll be frustrating. But I do think we're going to see more Michael Conforto hits, because whatever the issue was for a lot of that 0 for stretch when he was 0 for 33 or whatever, the handful of at-bats of that streak were actually showing signs of getting better. The beginning, yeah, he was just bad. But whatever that issue was, he's worked through it. He has solved that issue. Hitting a baseball is still the hardest thing to do in sports. So there will still be times when he's not successful. But overall, I expect him to bat 250, 260, something like that from now until the rest of the season. And if he does that, then his overall batting average will end up, 230 to 240, somewhere around there. It'll be low, but overall, if he's hitting that well, taking his walks like he's done even when he's been struggling really badly, he will be a valuable piece of this Dodgers offense, because right now it's it's a deep offense. At this moment right now, it's not as deep because Teoscar Hernandez and Tommy Edman are both injured. And I would like to have both of those guys back because right now you do have, yes, I know Chris Taylor had a double and scored the Dodgers' only run tonight, but when you're 8 and 9 or Miguel Rojas and Chris Taylor, both of those guys don't instill a lot of confidence in me. I would rather have guys who are good hitters in the lineup. And, over time, maybe we'll get to that point. If everybody gets healthy and they pull the trigger on some of these guys, the bench players, we'll see what happens. But I am looking forward to a time when we can once again go with several games in a row of the top 9 guys in the lineup. And that'll be fun. Teoscar might be back as soon as this weekend. Tommy Edman is getting close-ish. I think both of them took at bats against Emmett Sheehan, live at bats. Either they did or they are tomorrow. So they're getting close, and it'll be nice to have them back because the depth in this Dodgers lineup right now isn't quite what it should be. But Michael Conforto getting right will definitely help with that depth and help things get a little bit better. I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm kind of done with talking Dodgers for tonight. I'm just going to talk baseball in the next segment. I'm going to talk about Pete Rose. Rob Manfred officially reinstated Pete Rose, just however many months after he died. So Pete Rose is now eligible for the Hall of Fame. I'll talk about a lot of stuff about Pete Rose when we come back because you know what? The Big Red Machine and the Dodgers were big rivals. Pete Rose's career was spent as a rival of the Dodgers. And I like baseball, and I like talking about baseball. I actually wrote a paper in college about Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. And so, I'll dig into that. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? Will he get in? Are those the same question? We'll dig into it. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. I am back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being an everydayer. Please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now to make it easier to be an everydayer. And please become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. So Pete Rose, all-time hits leader with 4,256, I think. I've seen it said that he's the best hitter in baseball history. I saw that on Facebook because that's where people go to say things that aren't true. Pete Rose was a good hitter. Pete Rose at times was a great hitter. For the most part, Pete Rose was a long-time hitter. He was absolutely a great hitter, but not anywhere near the best hitter in baseball history. And that's okay. But he does have the most hits, and that means something. And the fact is, if we are looking at on the field accomplishments, Pete Rose is an absolute, no doubt, first ballot Hall of Famer. No question about it. You don't have to be the best player in history to be a no doubt Hall of Famer. There are hundreds of guys in the Hall of Fame, and Pete Rose was better than, at least half of them, probably more than that. Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame based on his on-field accolades. Now, I don't shed any tears for Pete Rose. I've seen a lot of people upset that they waited till after he died to reinstate him, blah, 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 blah. And I understand those feelings, and there's probably even been times that I agreed with them. But for me, maybe it's because I'm a parent, and there's, as a grumpy old man, there's just a big part of me that just says, look, you knew the rules and you broke it, dude. Because the fact is, Pete Rose 100,000% knew that he was breaking the rules of baseball when he broke the rules of baseball. He also 100,000% knew what the prescribed penalty was for breaking that rule. Everyone knew if you bet on baseball, you are banned for life. Period. And so when he chose to bet on baseball, and I don't know if chose is the right word. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I am not qualified to diagnose Pete Rose, who I've never met. I have walked past him one time at the winter meetings. Never met the guy. not qualified to analyze him, even if I did meet him. I don't know to what extent addiction played into this, but I think you can be addicted to gambling and still smart enough to not bet on baseball, knowing that it will get you banned for life. Pete Rose chose to break the rules, and he got the punishment that was prescribed for breaking that rule. And yes, maybe he had a handshake deal with Commissioner Giamatti when he accepted his ban, that it would, even though we're calling it a lifetime ban, it'll actually only be a year. And then the bad news was Commissioner Giamatti died that fall. I don't know. That's what Pete Rose claimed. But the fact is, you broke a rule that the punishment is being banned for life, and then you were banned for life. And so, sorry. And, there's part of me that believe, well, it wasn't actually originally, he wasn't ineligible for the Hall of Fame when he got banned for life. The Hall of Fame changed their rules because of Pete Rose and said, if you are on the ineligible list, you are also ineligible to be in the Hall of Fame. Those don't have to be connected. In my perfect world, probably what they should have done is separated those things, because yes, Pete Rose never should have worked in baseball ever again after he was caught betting on baseball. That was the purpose of the ban. Pete Rose shouldn't have worked in baseball. He wouldn't have worked in baseball. I think it was good that he was banned, but he probably should have been elected to the Hall of Fame, because especially because this isn't even a question like the steroids, where, okay, how good would Barry Bonds have been if he hadn't done steroids? Bonds would have been a Hall of Famer anyway, but his numbers are padded. We don't know exactly what his numbers would be. Pete Rose, this is when he was a manager. It wasn't when he was playing. It was when he was a manager. And so his on-field accomplishments are not tarnished by this. And so, yeah, put the dude in the Hall of Fame. The fact is, Pete Rose was more famous for not being in the Hall of Fame than he would have been if he was in the Hall of Fame. If Pete Rose had been banned by baseball, but still elected to the Hall of Fame, we would have thought about him once every 5 years. Instead, every July at the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, Pete Rose would be there in Cooperstown signing autographs, writing, "I'm sorry I bet on baseball," in his autograph, staying in the public eye because he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. It was the best thing for his publicity ever was to not be in the Hall of Fame. Obviously, he wanted to be in the Hall of Fame, so it was a fitting punishment, I guess, for him. But he was more famous for not being in the Hall of Fame. He should have been in the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Fame based on what he did on the field. But the flip side of that is there is a character clause in the Hall of Fame voting. One of the things that voters are supposed to consider is a player's character. And, I feel icky about that sometimes, because I don't necessarily think the people voting for the Hall of Fame are qualified to be judges of people's character. But Pete Rose broke a rule, knowing he was breaking it, lied about breaking it for a long time, never was completely honest about the extent to which he broke the rules, and also allegedly had improper relationship with a teenage girl. And his defense was, well, I'm pretty sure she was 16 and that was the legal age in Ohio. Doesn't make much better for me. And so, if you're judging Pete Rose's character and including that, I can see excluding him based on the character clause, because I'm not impressed by Pete Rose's character. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to speak ill of the dead any more than I have so far. But if I was voting for the Hall of Fame, I think I'd vote for Pete Rose just because he is deserving on the field. That character clause would give me pause. But I do think it has been weaponized a lot, almost to mean, do we like this guy or not? And I don't care much about that. Don't care much for that. I mean, but it's interesting. I think Shoeless Joe Jackson probably goes in the Hall of Fame. It probably won't be, I don't think either of them will be on a Veterans Committee ballot until like 2.5 years from now. And so who knows, a lot can change between now and then. I think Shoeless Joe probably gets elected. His stats in that World Series that he was alleged to have thrown show that he wasn't deliberately throwing the game. For sure, he was playing very well. There's evidence that maybe he didn't totally understand the agreements. He was, it wasn't as knowingly cheating as Pete Rose was. And so I think Shoeless Joe probably gets in. Pete Rose, I'm interested to see. But the fact it is a Veterans Committee, a lot of that just depends on who's on that Veterans Committee. I talked when Harold Baines got elected. I like Harold Baines just fine. I don't think he's a Hall of Fame player, but it doesn't keep me up at night. But one thing that did make me laugh was I talked to one of the people on the Veterans Committee, a former player, a Hall of Fame player who was on that committee that elected Harold Baines. I had a conversation with him face to face, and he told me that the reason they voted in Harold Baines was because it was clear that Edgar Martinez was about to get elected, and Harold Baines had more hits than Edgar Martinez. And so if Edgar is in, then Harold Baines has to be in. That is a line of thinking that I don't agree with. I find it to be less than compelling, and it just kind of makes me think, well, these Veterans Committees are going to do what they're going to do. And so we'll see if it's Pete Rose fans who are on the next Veterans Committee or if it's non-Pete Rose fans. That's what's going to determine it. Eventually he's going to get in. And now that he's dead, maybe they'll just say, all right, let's just put him in. So then we never have to talk about it ever again. Who knows? But I shed no tears for the fact that Pete Rose was not reinstated till after he died, because I think that's about what he deserved. And that's all I got to say about that. And that's all I have to say about this. You'll notice I didn't talk a whole lot about this game because it wasn't a fun game. The Dodgers lost 11-1 to the A's, but 2 more games in this series, still a chance to win this series and hopefully start a new winning streak. Let's win 13 in a row. Got it? All right. That'll do it for me. Thank you all for being here with me tonight. Good group in the chat. I appreciate you. I know sometimes a live Dodgers episode after a loss like this isn't the funnest thing, so I appreciate those of you who are here with me. Thanks for being an everydayer if you are. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can obviously make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Also, be sure to check out the new Locked On MLB Game Night, every game from the experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. You can find that on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also go beyond this podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and both of our DMs are open there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.